Somewhere over eastern Ukraine, a thermal camera mounted on a drone captures a convoy moving through a tree line at night. The image is grainy, the vehicles are camouflaged. To the human eye, it is noise. But the image is not being watched by a human eye. Within seconds, the system has cross-referenced the thermal signature against satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and historical movement patterns, and generated a recommended course of action. The operator does not need to analyze, the operator needs to decide. That system was not built by the Pentagon. It was built by a private company, founded by a philosopher, funded by the CIA, and named after a mythical stone that allowed its holder to see across time and distance. Tolkien embedded a warning in that mythology. Whoever used the stone without the authority to master, it would be consumed by what they saw. 23 years later, the stone is no longer mythology. It is infrastructure. It runs inside the Pentagon. It operates on the battlefields of Ukraine. And it is deciding what the most powerful military on Earth sees, and what it does not. In Node 007, we mapped the private infrastructure of orbital communication. Today, we enter the private infrastructure of perception itself. Welcome to Node 008. Welcome to Palantir.
Chapter 1: The Origin of the Stone.
In 2003, in the aftermath of September 11th, the CIA faced a problem no internal team could solve: how to fuse data from dozens of incompatible systems, financial records, communication intercepts, satellite imagery, human intelligence, into a single picture an analyst could act on before the next attack. The solution came from a startup funded by In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital arm, co-founded by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, a philosopher with a PhD from Frankfurt. Karp is the anomaly at the center of this node. A man who practices Tai Chi, works from a barn in New Hampshire, and whose company has been described as the West's AI arms dealer. In 2020, he moved the company from Palo, Alto to Denver, a deliberate pivot toward the defense establishment. Palantir is not a technology company that happens to serve the government. It is a government infrastructure company that happens to use technology. And from there, the stone began to see everything.
Chapter 2: The Architecture of Sight.
Palantir does not sell artificial intelligence. It sells a way of organizing reality. At the center of everything is the ontology, a semantic model that converts raw data into a structured representation of the world. It defines what exists: people, vehicles, weapon systems, bank accounts, and the relationships between them. It connects those entities to live data sources, databases, sensor feeds, satellite imagery, simultaneously. And it introduces logic, automated rules, permissions, and triggers that react when data changes. When a vehicle crosses a border, the ontology evaluates the crossing against historical patterns and generates an alert before a human analyst opens the file. Once an organization models its reality inside the ontology, it does not simply use Palantir. It sees the world through Palantir. On this foundation sit three platforms. Gotham, the original, designed for intelligence and defense, a multi-infusion engine that ingests open sources, human intelligence, signals intelligence, and satellite imagery, performs entity resolution across incompatible databases, and enforces access control at the object level, and AIP integrates large language models directly on top of the ontology. But unlike the cognitive infrastructure we documented in Node 006, where the model is the product, inside Palantir the model is subordinate. The ontology is the brain. The LLM is merely the mouth. The most invisible component is Apollo, the system that deploys software on classified, air-gapped networks with no internet connection. Cryptographically signed bundles, transferred on NSA, approved media, validated by a local agent that patches the system in 3.5 minutes. Apollo operates on JWICS and SIPRnet, the networks where the most sensitive Western intelligence flows. Without it, Palantir could not exist inside the defense establishment. Inside every deployment, the entire archive converges. AIP runs on the same NVIDIA GPUs from Node 003. At the tactical edge, the processors run on the ARM instruction set from Node 005. A single truck on the battlefield carries the fingerprint of every choke point this archive has documented.
Chapter 3: The Battlefield Oracle.
In March 2026, the Pentagon designated Project Maven as a program of record, the central artificial intelligence system of the United States Department of Defense. Over 20,000 personnel across 35 units use it daily. Maven compresses the cycle from sensor to shooter, from hours to minutes. Maven was not proven in a simulation. It was proven in war. In Node 007, we documented how Starlink carries the signal. But a signal without interpretation is noise. Palantir converts Starlink's bandwidth into battlefield intelligence. Starlink transmits, Palantir sees. Together, they form the nervous system of modern warfare, one privately owned, the other privately operated. In Ukraine, Gotham synthesizes satellite data, thermal sensors, drone reconnaissance, and intercepted communications. Ukrainian forces identify approximately 300 enemy targets per day. CARP stated publicly that Palantir was responsible for most of the targeting in Ukraine. Then Ukraine became more than a client. In January 2026, the Ukrainian government opened the Brave One data room, a secure platform built with Palantir to train AI models on real combat data. Ukraine is no longer just using Palantir's intelligence. It is generating the training data that makes the intelligence sharper. The battlefield is being learned at the hardware level. Titan, the tactical intelligence targeting access node, is the first AI-defined vehicle in the United States Army. It fuses space-based, airborne, and ground-level data with machine learning, providing targeting for long-range precision fires. Titan puts the entire intelligence stack into the back of a truck. The stone no longer sits in a command center. It rides into battle.
Chapter 4: The Seeing Stone Economy.
Palantir has 3 moats. None of them are the ones Wall Street typically measures. The first is ontology lock-in. In Node 003, we documented how NVIDIA's CUDA created a compatibility regime so embedded that switching required rewriting an institutional codebase. The ontology is Palantir's CUDA. Once an organization models its reality inside it, replacing Palantir is not a procurement decision, it is an institutional lobotomy. When the NYPD attempted to leave Gotham, it discovered its investigators' analytical work was structured within Palantir's proprietary ontology. It took years to build a replacement. That is not a switching cost. It is a wall of extraction. The second is the security clearance barrier. Palantir holds accreditations from FedRAMP to DoD Impact Level 6, classified and secret level data, extended in 2026 to the tactical edge. These accreditations take years and millions of dollars to obtain. A competitor must survive institutional vetting before it can compete for a single contract. The third is institutional trust. Palantir has operated inside the CIA, the NSA, and the DoD for 23 years. Its forward-deployed engineers work inside the client's building, embedded in the client's team, building solutions on the ontology in real time. The first contract is small, then the ontology spreads, department by department, until 75 separate Army contracts become one $10 billion agreement over 10 years. The forward-deployed engineers are not salespeople. They are Trojan horses. No competitor replicates this triple moat. Anduril builds autonomous systems, scale AI equals data, but none of them fuse all intelligence sources into a single operational picture, deploy it on classified air-gapped networks, and embed engineers inside the command structure simultaneously. Palantir does not compete with defense companies. It competes with the government's capacity to understand its own reality.
Chapter 5: The Oracle State.
The pattern is now unmistakable. In Node 002, the world depends on a single island for advanced silicon. In Node 007, on a single company for orbital communications. In Node 008, the most powerful military on Earth depends on a single private platform for battlefield perception, critical infrastructure, private control. No alternative at the speed of need. Palantir is not a monopoly of production like ASML. It is a monopoly of perception, built on temporal irreplaceability. The United States could, in theory, build a replacement, but it would take years. And years is the one resource a government at war does not have. The moat is not the software. The moat is the time. China does not have a Palantir. It has fragments, sensor time, CETC, and others. The difference is not ambition. It is integration. Palantir is a system. China has components. And there is a final irony. Palantir integrates models from Anthropic, the AI safety company, inside its military platforms. But the Pentagon removed Anthropic itself from its approved vendor list. Palantir is the intermediary through which civilian AI enters the military domain. The alignment layer designed in San Francisco is overridden by the operational layer designed in Palantir's war rooms. Tolkien's warning was precise. The danger of the seeing stone was never the stone itself. It was the question of authority. Who holds the stone? Who decides what it reveals? And who is consumed by what it shows? The stone is held by a corporation, and the corporation does not answer to the people it surveils. It answers to the market that values its sight. The seeing stone has been activated, and the seeing stone has a single operator. But perception is not the final layer of power. Palantir sees the battlefield, the convoy, the supply line, the encrypted signal. But there is an entity that does not need satellites or drones to see. It sees through capital flows. It does not command armies. It commands the allocation of $14 trillion. And unlike Palantir, it does not serve the state. Governments serve it. The next node is not a technology company. It is the invisible architecture through which modern capital decides who rises, who falls, and who disappears. The seeing stone showed us the battlefield. The next node will show us who owns the board. This has been a Silicon Node Intelligence briefing. Follow the money, follow the nodes. If you value this level of industrial intelligence and want to stay ahead of the disruptive trends shaping the 21st century and beyond, join us.
We are Silicon Node Reports, and this was Palantir, the Seeing Stone, the Weaponization of Omniscience. Subscribe to Silicon Node Reports. Let's decode the future of the world's most critical supply chains together. Silicon Node Reports, the infrastructure of global capital.